Threats to lawmakers continue to increase, and in New Mexico, they've led to the arrest of a former Republican candidate. Police in Albuquerque say they've arrested Solomon Peña, who claims he lost his bid for state office because of a rigged election. Police say Peña paid 4 men to shoot at the homes of Democratic lawmakers.
In Michigan, some lawmakers say they're concerned about their safety too. Our political reporter, Rachel Louise Just, explains what safety measures are currently in place.
Today, a rally against gun violence on Michigan's Capitol lawn, but those working inside the Capitol say they don't feel safe from that kind of violence that's being protested just beyond their walls. A 2021 review by the AP found guns are allowed in 21 state capitals. Michigan is one of only 8 that allows concealed carry, while states like Alabama and Oklahoma have all-out bans.
We find that most people that are carrying firearms are responsible. The ones that come into the Capitol with weapons, they're responsible. They're not giving us any trouble. They're just exercising their right to carry that weapon.
In Lansing, not all Capitol entrances have police posted, and there are no metal detectors. It wasn't until the attack on January 6th that Michigan's Capitol Commission decided to ban open carry. Before that, all firearms, including assault rifles, were allowed inside by anyone. We saw that on April 30th, 2020, when protesters against COVID mandates entered the Capitol and surrounded lawmakers in session. And while that was just one day 3 years ago, the fear remains for some.
So it's not just that moment and that when that happens, but it's in all these subsequent days.
Some lawmakers and staff now have bulletproof vests, and some Democrats tell me now that they have the majority, they're considering putting in place some legislation that would make it so that you cannot carry firearms in the Capitol at all. Lawmakers have been open about threats made to them.
When that's always in the back of your mind, that impacts your ability to do the work that you want to do.
While MSP says it can't say how many threats it's investigated against Michigan lawmakers, data nationwide shows threats against elected officials have skyrocketed in the last few years. In Congress, Capitol Police data shows there's been a tenfold increase starting since Donald Trump became president. U.S. Capitol Police say there were 902 threats against members of Congress in 2016. That rose to more than 9,600 in 2021.
Anything that may pose a threat or appears to be a threat, or if it concerns the lawmaker, they're going to bring it to us, and then we'll investigate it.
Time for change is now. Yes.
Well, anti-violence groups are putting on a full court press tonight. They are calling on state lawmakers to pass stricter gun laws.
And advocates in our state say they're seizing an opportunity now that Democrats control the state legislature. News Channel 3's Mike Kravsik joins us live from Wall Street in Kalamazoo, where bullets were sprayed at a home overnight. Mike?
Yeah, Andy and Jessica, nobody was hurt, but police say they have arrested the 18-year-old responsible for shooting up multiple homes on this block. The city has seen a spat of recent shootings in the new year. Local doctors today speaking out, saying they're seeing younger victims. They call gun violence a public health crisis, and its impacts are on display at today's gathering. Inside a packed room at Kalamazoo's First United Methodist Church, people who've lost loved ones to gun violence.
One of the most loving, caring people to ever walk the face of the earth.
Lori Klein-Clausen was a close friend of Barbara Hawthorne, one of the 6 people killed in the 2016 Kalamazoo Uber shootings.
She would want us to do something.
We want a stop to gun violence.
Organizers with End Gun Violence Michigan making their call for change, spreading their message across 7 Michigan cities today. Doctors in Kalamazoo speaking out as well.
Put the hospitals on high alert has created disruption in the care.
Gun violence recently surpassed car crashes as the leading killer of American children.
This is not about the Second Amendment. It's not a political statement. This is an important and very valid statement that is common sense first and foremost.
And Gun Violence Michigan and a coalition of similar groups are calling on lawmakers to pass 4 measures in their first 100 days in office. Universal background checks for firearms, safe storage laws, red flag laws, and domestic violence prevention. Governor Whitmer has called on lawmakers to pass similar measures this legislative session, but many say there's no time to lose.
Just because it's a multifaceted, extremely complex issue is no excuse not to start somewhere and do something.
For Lori Klein Clausen, she's now connected to a total stranger.
A friend of mine, Mary Lou, was also in this same incident. She was my babysitter when I was a little kid.
A connection formed by tragedy.
You may not have known somebody that was impacted by gun violence, but more and more likely, you do know somebody.
According to stats from the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety's shootings in 2022 were down 10% from the year before. However, there's still twice as many people shot in 2022 as there were in 2019.
A West Michigan school district closing its doors and canceling class Tuesday because of a lack of bus drivers. That's what they're blaming for it.
Now this morning we protect and alert you as News Channel 3's Maria Serrano joins us live in studio right now. And Maria, you actually spoke with local superintendent to see how big the risk would be to other school districts.
That's exactly right. Good morning to you both, Kirk and Kristen. We know that Constantine Public Schools canceled school on Tuesday because they're dealing with a bus driver shortage. School officials there say too many drivers called out sick that day. I spoke to the superintendent for South Haven Public Schools, Kevin Schooley, who says dealing with the bus driver shortage is a consistent struggle. His district hasn't had to cancel class, but he says there have been many instances of route cancellations because of the lack of drivers. For example, yesterday, South Haven Public Schools had to cancel one route, and they've seen it ebb and flow with the cold and flu season underway, with drivers getting sick. Schooley says when you don't have that cushion of the substitute drivers, it impacts everyone, and he called it frustrating and concerning. He says most districts are dealing with a driver shortage in some way, but the shortage has a compounding impact on athletics, as it's a daily struggle due to the times these events begin and getting drivers back from routes to then transport a team to an event.
And when our routes are consolidated and or you're missing a driver and you've canceled the bus, that extends out, right? I mean, so when athletic events begin, it's difficult to get sport teams to their destination on time for tip-off or the swim meet when our priority is getting kids to and from school. Again, that's been a frustration. But we've dealt with it, working with parents. We've dealt with it using other school transportation like vans.
News 3 contacted several districts, including Kalamazoo Public Schools, Portage Public Schools, and Battle Creek, to learn how they're being affected. We're still waiting to hear back, but Comstock Public Schools says it's had its head above water regarding sufficient drivers, but the district could always hire more.